Ancient Athens, around 410 BC. The sun is setting over the port of Piraeus, casting long shadows across the dusty roads. A religious festival has just ended, and the streets are still buzzing with energy. Among the crowd, an older man with a peculiar walk and piercing eyes makes his way toward the city. This is Socrates, perhaps the most famous philosopher who ever lived. Though he doesn't know it yet, this evening will spark a conversation that will echo through the centuries. But Socrates won't make it home tonight. Something is about to happen that will change everything. Socrates is walking with his young friend Glaucon. They've just witnessed something remarkable at the festival, a ceremony honoring Bendis, a goddess from the mysterious lands of Thrace. "Well, that was worth seeing," Glaucon says as they start the long walk back to Athens. But they don't get far. A servant boy suddenly appears, running toward them. The boy grabs Socrates by his cloak from behind. "My master wants you to wait," the boy pants, out of breath. Socrates turns around to see Polemarchus hurrying down the road with several other young men. Among them is Glaucon's own brother, Adimantus. "There you are," Polemarchus calls out. "You're not going to slip away that easily. You have two choices. Either you're stronger than all of us, or you stay." Glaucon laughs. "You're forgetting a third option. What if we persuade you to let us go?" "You can't persuade people who won't listen," Polemarchus grins, "and we definitely aren't listening." For Socrates, what comes next is irresistible. Polemarchus mentions there will be conversation, plenty of it. For Socrates, conversation, especially philosophical conversation, is what he lives for. And so they turn back toward Piraeus, toward the house where this legendary conversation will unfold. Now here's where things get interesting. They arrive at the house of Cephalus, Polemarchus's father. It's a wealthy home that speaks of decades of successful business. When they enter the courtyard, they find the old man sitting on a cushioned chair, a garland of flowers on his head. He's just finished performing a religious sacrifice. The moment Cephalus sees Socrates, his weathered face breaks into a genuine smile. Here's something you need to understand about Cephalus. He's old now, very old. His body is failing him, but his mind is still sharp. And unlike many old men who retreat into bitterness, Cephalus has found something unexpected in his final years. He's found peace. "Socrates," he calls out warmly, "you never come to see me anymore. You should visit more often. As the body gets weaker, the desire for physical pleasures fades, but the desire for conversation, that only grows stronger." Socrates settles in beside him. "You've traveled far along the road of life, much farther than the rest of us. So tell me honestly, Cephalus, is old age a hard thing to bear?" Cephalus takes a moment before answering. "You know, Socrates, I meet with my old friends regularly, and most of them do nothing but complain. They go on and on about the pleasures they've lost, the parties, the love affairs, the drinking. They say life isn't worth living anymore." He leans forward. "But I'll tell you what I think. These men aren't suffering because of their age. They're suffering because of their character. If a man has a disciplined soul, if he's at peace with himself, then old age is only a moderate burden. The problem isn't when you live, it's how you live." Socrates nods, but then he pushes further. "That's beautifully said, Cephalus, but most people would think easy for him to say he's rich. They'd argue that wealth is what makes your old age bearable." Watch how Cephalus responds. "There's truth in that," the old man admits. "Poverty makes everything harder, but wealth can't make a bad man happy. The ideal situation is to have both, a good character and modest wealth. But if I had to choose one, I'd take the good character." "And what's the greatest blessing of wealth?" Socrates asks. Here, Cephalus pauses. His eyes drift toward the altar. When he speaks again, his voice is quieter, more serious. "This might surprise you. It's not the comfort or the luxury. Here's what wealth has given me: peace of mind about what comes after death." The courtyard goes quiet. When you're young, you hear stories about the afterlife, about punishments waiting for those who did wrong. You laugh them off. But as you get older, as death stops being abstract and becomes real, those stories start to weigh on you. You lie awake in the dark and wonder, what if they're true? His voice softens, and that's when you start reviewing your life. Every lie you told, every debt you didn't pay, every person you wronged. This is what wealth has given me. It let me live honestly. I never had to cheat anyone because I was desperate. I paid my debts to men and my offerings to the gods. Now I can face whatever comes next without that gnawing fear. Here is a man staring into the abyss, and he's not afraid. And Socrates, being Socrates, sees an opening. Cephalus, Socrates says carefully, you've just said something remarkable. You said wealth allows you to pay your debts and avoid deceiving anyone. So you're saying that justice means telling the truth and paying back what you owe. But before Cephalus can nod, Socrates continues. Wait, let me test that idea. Imagine I borrow a sword from a friend when he's perfectly sane. Later, he loses his mind. He becomes dangerous, violent. Now he comes back demanding his sword. Should I return it? Am I required by justice to give a weapon to a madman? Well, no, obviously not. Then justice can't simply be telling the truth and returning what you borrowed. Polemarchus jumps in. Father's definition comes from Simonides, the poet. Simonides said justice is giving to each what is owed to them. At this moment, Cephalus slowly rises from his seat. I must return to the sacrifice. Polemarchus, you'll have to defend this argument for me. After all, you're my heir. You inherit my possessions and my position in this debate. Everyone laughs, and Cephalus shuffles away. We'll never see him again. He's played his part beautifully, introducing the question of justice, then gracefully stepping aside so younger minds can wrestle with it. And now the real discussion begins. Socrates turns to Polemarchus. So you're saying justice means doing good to friends and harm to enemies? Exactly, Polemarchus says confidently. Let's explore this. Every skill has a specific purpose, right? Medicine makes sick people healthy. So in what situation does justice help friends and hurt enemies? In matters of war and alliance, justice makes you a good ally and a dangerous enemy. So justice is useful in war. But what about peacetime? Is justice useless when there's no fighting? No, justice is also useful in business partnerships. Partnerships involving what? If I want to make music, a musician is a better partner than a just man, correct? Well, yes. And if I want to build a house, I'd rather partner with a builder. True. So when exactly is the just man more valuable than someone with an actual skill? Polemarchus looks uncomfortable. In matters involving money, when you need to keep money safe. And here comes the trap. Ah, so justice is most useful when money is not being used. Justice is valuable only for useless things? That can't be right. Let me try another angle. You say justice involves being skilled at guarding things, but whoever is good at guarding something is also good at stealing it. The best guard is potentially the best thief. A doctor who can heal can also poison. Polemarchus's eyes widen. So the just man who's good at guarding money must also be good at stealing it. Justice becomes the art of theft, and you're claiming this comes from the great poet Simonides? The courtyard erupts in laughter. This is ridiculous, Polemarchus mutters. Indeed, Socrates agrees kindly. Let's start again. If you're enjoying this deep dive into ancient wisdom, stick around because things are about to get even more intense. You said justice is helping friends and harming enemies, Socrates continues. But how do we identify who our friends really are? Friends are people who seem good to us. But people make mistakes in judgment all the time. Someone might seem like a friend, but turn out to be wicked. According to your definition, we'd end up helping bad people and harming good people. That's the opposite of justice. Polemarchus quickly adjusts.
Okay, real friends are those who are good, not just those who seem good. Better. So justice means doing good to people who are actually good and harm to people who are actually bad. Yes. Now here's my next question. When you harm someone, do you make them better or worse? Worse, obviously. If you harm a horse, does it become a better horse or worse? Worse. And when you harm a human being, do you make them better in terms of human excellence? Worse. And isn't justice a human virtue? Of course. The trap is closing. So when we harm people, we make them more unjust. Polemarchus nods slowly. Then just people use justice to make others unjust. That's like saying musicians use music to make people unmusical.
Can heat produce cold? Can good produce evil? That seems impossible. It is impossible. Therefore, it cannot be the function of justice to harm anyone, whether friend or enemy. A truly just person only does good. Polemarchus sits back, defeated but thoughtful. Two definitions of justice have crumbled. The old man's formula, truth and paying debts, the poet's formula, helping friends and harming enemies, both have failed under examination. But if justice isn't any of these things, then what is it? And that's when everything changes. Throughout this entire conversation, there's been a man sitting in the shadows. His name is Thrasymachus. He's a sophist, one of those professional teachers who travels from city to city, charging wealthy young men to learn rhetoric and argumentation. He's been getting more and more agitated. Thrasymachus doesn't like Socrates. While sophists charge hefty fees and promise to teach wisdom, Socrates wanders around Athens asking questions for free and making people realize how little they actually know. It's bad for business. Now he can't contain himself any longer. He explodes into the conversation like a wild animal. What is this nonsense? Why are you two playing these stupid games? If you really want to know what justice is, Socrates, then stop asking questions and start giving answers. And don't give me any of your usual pathetic responses. Don't say justice is duty, or what's beneficial, or what's advantageous. I want a real answer. The entire courtyard goes silent. This isn't friendly philosophical banter anymore. Socrates looks at him with wide, innocent eyes. Please, don't be too hard on us. If we've made mistakes, they were unintentional. We're trying our best. But Thrasymachus isn't buying it. Oh, there goes Socrates with his famous false modesty. I know your game. You never answer questions yourself. You just wait for someone else to give an answer, and then you tear it apart. But how can I give an answer when I genuinely don't know? Surely it makes more sense for you to answer, since you claim to know the truth. Fine, I'll answer, but you'll have to pay me. I don't educate people for free. Glaucon and the others immediately speak up. We'll pay, just tell us what you think. Thrasymachus straightens up. Fine, listen carefully. He pauses for dramatic effect. Justice is nothing more and nothing less than the advantage of the stronger. The courtyard erupts in murmurs. This is different. This isn't a naive definition. This is a direct challenge to everything they believe about morality. If you're going to be sorry now. I'll explain it like you're a child, Thrasymachus says condescendingly. Different cities have different governments, right? Tyrannies, democracies, aristocracies. Each government makes laws to benefit itself, and these laws define what citizens must consider just. Anyone who breaks them is punished for being unjust. So justice is simply whatever serves the rulers. Might makes right. The strong rule, and justice is whatever they say it is. He looks around with satisfaction. That's the truth you're all too naive to admit. In the real world, justice is just a pretty word for whatever benefits whoever's in charge. The entire philosophical foundation has been challenged. Everything they thought they knew about right and wrong has been reduced to raw power.
Socrates meets Thrasymachus's eyes. The old philosopher's expression is calm, but there's steel beneath it. "Well," Socrates says quietly, "now we have something worth discussing." And what happens next is absolutely brilliant, because Socrates is about to take this cynical, hard-nosed view of justice and systematically dismantle it piece by piece. But I'll save that story for another time. So that's Book 1 of Plato's Republic. We started with a simple question from an old man facing death: what is justice? We watched as simple answers collapsed under examination, and we ended with a radical challenge. Maybe justice is just whatever the powerful say it is. This isn't just ancient philosophy. These questions are still alive today. Is morality real, or is it just a tool of those in power? Should we help our friends and hurt our enemies? What makes something truly just? If you enjoyed this journey into one of the greatest books ever written, hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives into classical philosophy made accessible and engaging. In the next video, we'll explore Book 2, where things get even intense with the famous Ring of Gyges thought experiment. Drop a comment below. Do you think Thrasymachus was right? Is justice really just the advantage of the stronger, or is there something more? Thanks for listening. Keep questioning, keep thinking. That's what Socrates would have wanted. Until next time.